For a long time, the company PolyNovo has been considered perhaps Australia's next great biopharmaceuticals company. Its product Novosorb, which is a form of artificial skin that treats burns, is considered a global leader. But the company has its doubters. Right now, it's the 8th most shorted stock on the ASX. Its shares are subject to wild swings. Some of that pain is self-inflicted, like a bitter battle earlier this year between its chairman, David Williams, and its chief executive, Swami Rote. Swami departed abruptly. This week, the company's shares again soared after it announced that Novosorb is being used to stimulate insulin production for sufferers of type 1 diabetes. The professor who's leading that trial, Toby Coates from Burdensome, explained it to chairman David Williams this week.
Having developed the material that treats wounds so effectively, the Novosorb, he thought we'd be able to grow cells or have cells be supported by the same polymer structure. So Burdensome exists to do that, to take a cell and see if we can make it survive in the skin. And of course, we know that this works because it works through the same mechanism that it works for skin grafting.
And off the back of all that, I caught up with the PolyNovo Chairman David Williams a short time ago.
Well, they've been messing around with it since they helped us, the same professors helped us develop our Novosorb technology, and that's really where the idea came from. So in reality, probably 10 years, but in earnest, only in the last 4 years. And the paper was given this week in Copenhagen with one of the patients who's now had this treatment for more than 3 years and has his sugars still down.
So that being the case, the idea would be that, you know, there are other drugs out there at the moment, Ozempic being the obvious one, Wegovy another, that are obviously helping people with diabetes. That's what those drugs have been designed for. This does something a little bit different, doesn't it?
Well, it does, but in a sense, it's got the same effect. So, you know, the problem with the Ozempics and Mounjaros and so forth is they're very expensive, number one. And number two, the patient has to inject themselves every week. So you have a compliance issue there. The technology that the guys in Adelaide have come up with is really to put a little of our foam under the skin and to inject it with diabetic islet cells. And what they found is that the sugars go down almost immediately, and in the one patient, for example, that they were talking about in Sweden, his sugars were down after 3 years, still at a 5 level. So it's at best, or at worst I should say, complementary to things like Ozempic, and at best it could be a replacement. So it's a world beater for PolyNovo and for the guys at Burdensome.
Okay, so you've been at this a long time. The PolyNovo team have been together for a long, long time looking for these breakthroughs. Did you always think these were in the background? Because the notion of treating burns victims clearly was the first priority.
No, it wasn't in the background at all. In fact, we started off, as you quite rightly say, as a burns product, but now this is a platform. So surgeons are using it worldwide now for spina bifida, for any sorts of tissue loss on the outside of the body, whether that's an oncology burn, a diabetic foot ulcer, venous leg ulcer, you know, necrotizing fasciitis. Burns is just one small part of it. By the way, in 5 short years, we've now become #1 as a burns treatment in the US, in the UK, in Germany, Australia, New Zealand. So it's been embraced by surgeons everywhere, but it's truly turned itself into a platform. But we were focused, that platform is in what I call a silo, and the silo is just wound care. Okay, we've got products for inside the body coming as well, like breast and hernia, but it's all in the same silo. This is a completely separate silo, and so what the boys have shown is that if you use this as a delivery device, you can affect diabetes. Now, the diabetes cells are just cells. So their own view is that they could do this with adrenaline cells, they could do it with thyroid cells, any sort of cell they think can go on this platform, and that's one of the things they'll start working on with us.
So given the fact this is cutting-edge research and development, and obviously you need the trust and the capital of your shareholders to maintain the momentum of the research, is this the type of company that is best placed in private equity hands, or is it best placed on the public markets?
No, I think it wouldn't matter, to be honest. It's not going to be as expensive a process as you might think, and it's not going to be a lengthy process as you might think. And the reason I say that is, if you just imagine that we have a product that's already registered with the TGA, already registered with the FDA and various other regulatory authorities around the world. Many people have cells that are also registered and proven. And so there is a school of thought which is housed by the guys who are the professors that are doing this, that there may not be any regulatory hurdles at all because you're just putting two products together that are already approved. Now, that has to be tested, but that would mean this could be in the market very quickly and could be being used by surgeons very quickly. I would remind people that this product itself, even though we're #1 in burns in the US, we're not indicated by the FDA for deep burns. We're in all sorts of other tissue loss and trauma and so forth, but we've only just submitted to the TGA that we should be allowed to be used in deep burns. We've already got 52% of the market in burns, by the way. So I think this technology where it creates a completely separate silo for us. And that silo has nothing to do with wounds. It's to do with drug delivery or cell delivery.
Yeah, I also want to get to the point about whether companies should be in private hands or public hands. What I'm wondering is a company such as this, even a chairman such as you, and you say you're up front and saying that you're non-PC, may have also led to the dispute with your former chief executive quite clearly. What I'm trying to get at here, is it harder these days to be a technology company, an emerging company, and also trying to comply with all of the laws and, if you like, the wherewithal, the cultures of the ASX these days?
Well, it's burdensome, obviously, and there's no shortage of people that'll tell you, why would you ever want to be a public company director? The technology itself in this company doesn't really matter whether it's in a public company or a private company. But, I make no apologies for the fact that I'm very aggressive at these things, even though somebody might want to kick the hell out of me in the press. Don't care. We've got technology that's world-beating, and I'm determined to get it to the world as quickly as I can and as aggressively as I can in terms of work ethic and pushing this. A year ago, Ross, we were in about 25 countries. This year, or a year on, we're delivering this product to 46 countries. And you can't do that without a lot of intensity.
Okay, so then I'd ask you a second question on that. Would it be easier to be in the United States, which is clearly your biggest market, to raise the capital there? Would the compliance, would all these PC issues be easier, say, in America than they would be here in Australia? Because there's no doubt that the culture of corporate life in Australia has changed dramatically even over the past 10 years.
It has, but it also has in the US as well. But I think the difference with the US and here is not that much. But Trump himself, as everybody would know, has emboldened a lot of people in the US and here on issues like diversity, ESG, work from home, a whole host of things. And I think that tide is turning on each of those things. So I don't look at the US as being any easier than it would be here. There's always people who say that you can raise money more quickly there. There's a case for that because a lot of the big funds have medicine experience on their boards and on their analysts, whereas the funds here are a bit more general because we just don't have the size. But look, even on multiples, I find there's no shortage of funds around the world who want to be in your stock. And if you look, we've got a dozen companies within 1 kilometre of where I'm standing now talking to you that are $5-10 billion companies. Companies like Telex, companies like Cochlear, companies like, there's a dozen of them, ResMed and so forth. And those companies are full of US and European money.
So then take me to one other aspect of it, because you've got the industry super funds right now that have got watch lists on companies that they wonder whether they are PC enough, as it were, for them to invest in. Does that trouble you? Because they clearly are potentially some of the biggest backers of companies such as PolyNovo.
No, it doesn't worry me whatsoever. I mean, we got a bit of bad publicity for it, but I can tell you, and some of this is public, some of the biggest institutions in the world have come in on the back of that. So Fidelity, for example, put a notice out the other day they'd gone to 9.1%. So while some people might have, be offended by political correctness and choose to go with their feet, there's plenty of people in the US and in Europe who are buying our stock and then publicly announcing it, obviously.
I'll tell you what, it is always great to have you on the program, the chairman of PolyNovo and a big investor himself in it, David Williams. Many thanks for your time today.
Anytime, Ross.